Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. Well, this is exciting. Welcome to season 5. I'm back. We're back at it. Happy fall equinox that just recently passed. I hope you guys had a lovely transition from the dog days of summer, to the start of fall now, which, depending on where you live, might not really feel like a difference, or maybe it does. And so I'm really excited to be back with you guys. Honestly, the break felt long, but also really quick. It's kind of a mix. And I was doing some work behind the scenes over the time that I wasn't posting episodes, but I am really excited to be back with you guys, and I'm hoping to bring a more relaxed energy to this podcast, which might sound strange on your end as a listener because it probably won't seem really different. But for me and my energy, like reminding myself that I'm doing this podcast because I love it, because I want to build community, because I think it's important to put our voices out there. And I feel like I have things that I want to say and share with whoever cares to listen. And so just reminding myself of the why and the heart behind this, and bringing that kind of energy, because I also want the episodes for you guys to not feel like another to-do list, like another, you've got to do this to be healthy and happy and to live well and whatever. Like, that's the opposite of what I want to do. And so I think bringing more of that relaxed energy just within myself hopefully will carry over even more as like these, as you listen, for this to feel kind of like inspiration and a bit of a respite from other sources of media. And yeah, it's just something you can kind of come and like chill in and listen at your own pace and take what you want. And anyway, that's kind of a rant to begin with, but I think I just haven't hit record in a while, so I'm feeling excited about talking to you guys again and letting you know what has been on my mind, because a lot has been on my mind in this break. That, one of the good things about taking some space from recording is that I get to percolate on some stuff a little bit longer and just roll it around in my own head before I come and talk to you guys about it. So yeah, but I'm really excited for today. We're just going to jump right back in. We've got a great listener question for this episode, as the title might have already told you. It's about burnout. And I thought it was really fun and interesting to start the new season after I've had this period of rest with an episode about burnout. As a reminder at the top, I'll just say, if you're new here, I like to answer listener questions, but in no way am I telling you what you should do, or do I know all of the context or nuances of your life. So take things with a grain of salt if you need. And yes, I am a therapist, but this is also just me and my life experience that's informing the way that I approach these questions and how I answer them. And I really like to create the space for us to open up dialogue together, to be like, okay, this is what I think about burnout and how I think you can help it. And like, what have you discovered? And what do you do different? And I would love to hear about it. So this is the Evergreen Apothecary. We're creating our own prescriptions for living well. And that always means that it's fluid and aligned for you, and nuanced and totally personalizable. Yep, that's it. That's a word. Totally personalized. Okay, and if you want to write me your own questions, send them to theevergreenrx@gmail.com, or you can send a text to 512-655-9888. I would love to hear from you. Leave me a voicemail and let me know if I can play it in the podcast, because I would love for your voice to be an actual part of the episode. But for now, I'll read them out. Okay. Open up the shop. It says, Dear Evergreen, how do you spot burnout? Like, how do you know you're burnt out? What should you do when you are? And how do you recover from burnout? So this one's just straight down to the point. Like, let's get into burnout. I need to know what to do about it And that's really fair because this question kind of brought back up for me the concept of burnout, because it kind of has become so talked about that it's like, yeah, whatever, burnout, we're all burnt out, sure. But thinking about it and focusing on it, I was like, whoa, I think I need to give a lot more credence, and probably all of us need to give a lot more credence to the role that this plays in our life and how to deal with it realistically. Because I think that's sometimes where burnout becomes a little bit like, yeah, cool, we're all burnt out. What are we going to do about it? Like, sometimes the suggestions can feel unattainable. I'm hoping that in this episode, I'll give you some suggestions, enough of an array that something will feel attainable to you, even in your life that might be really busy or really fast paced at this period in time. So yeah, as I was thinking about this and preparing for the episode, I was recognizing the ways micro or mini burnout happens even with something I like to do, like with this podcast, taking a break from it. I was like, wow, I am much more recharged when I don't have this added responsibility. I didn't realize, it's something I want to do. It's a fun thing for the most part. But it still creates this like mini kind of burnout. And this happens with work too. Like, oh my God, at the end of a day, it's like micro burnout, or at the end of the week, mini burnout of, I'm not at the breaking point at the end of like, I need to really take a step back to recharge, but there is a level of like, whew, I need a breather for a second before I can come back in and do this again. And I'm imagining a lot of you guys feel the same way, because our life is very demanding and work can be very demanding. School is structured off of semesters of burnout. They're like, we're just going to run you super hard, and then you're going to get to collapse and get like a month off, and then we're going to do it all again, which is honestly really problematic. But yeah, I think that before researching this topic and putting more concerted effort to thinking about it, I was maybe attributing more of the symptoms of burnout to my own personal failings in a way. Like, oh, my hormonal fluctuations are causing this, or maybe like I'm doing something wrong. I'm, just being too negative, or like kind of questioning myself. Like, why is this so hard for me? Why am I feeling so tired? Blah, blah, blah. Which obviously some of those things can play a role, like hormonal fluctuations, things like that. But I also don't think I was thinking about it from the lens of like the stress cycle and how we have to discharge, and how rest and relaxation is a part of completing that cycle so that we can keep going and keep showing up for the things we need to show up for. And if you don't know what the stress cycle is, I'll talk about it a little bit more later. But I want to break down and address each part of this listener question, which is, how do we spot burnout? What do we do about it? And I'm going to talk about short-term recovery and long-term prevention, and bring it all together to hopefully help us all feel a little bit more like we can do something about it. So I remembered a school project that I did in grad school that I thought would be kind of fun to pull out for any of you visual viewers, anybody watching on YouTube. And so, yeah, I have this project where we were supposed to do I think it was in my ethics class, we had to do a project on burnout and how to spot it and what to do about it, because that's such a big thing in therapy, and it's an ethical mandate basically to not get burnt out or to do something about it, because it can lead to compassion fatigue, and just really bad things can happen if a therapist is super burnt out and working. And so I decided we got to have creative liberty. I decided, since I'm into hand lettering and watercoloring, to do these like color swatches. So do different kinds of red for signs of burnout, and to do different shades of blue for how to recover, what to do about it. And I just thought that was kind of fun. And it holds true. You probably can't really read what I put on there because of the cursive, but I will cover all of them today. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a fun thing to pull back out. So, first things first, babes. How do we spot it? What does it actually look like? So, the definition of burnout is the accumulation or buildup of stress over time. So, stress itself is not the enemy. That's not the problem. It's the accumulation of stress without being properly expelled or processed. And that's why it builds up, and then we get to burnout, which means that we might feel emotionally exhausted. I talked about this a second ago with compassion fatigue. Like, we feel really apathetic. We stop caring as much maybe for other people or for ourselves. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really give a fuck. Like, that kind of energy. We can feel like it's really hard to cope with like daily demands, depersonalization, which is feeling detached, experiencing cynicism, maybe having negative attitudes towards your coworkers, towards your clients, reduced professional efficacy, which this one I found really interesting because I go through these cycles in my work that I learned to view as like performance regression, which is a thing that happens with anybody, who's expanding their skills, that has to perform at their job, and that it's very natural. This is like represented in athletes a lot, this performance regression of like, not getting able to like being able to get your golf swing, or like when Simone Biles had like the twisties, like this weird thing that kind of comes in and you almost feel like you forget how to do the thing you used to be really good at. Like maybe you start missing all of your shots in basketball and it's like, I don't know what happened. I just kind of feel like I can't do it anymore. And so I thought that was interesting because I had seen it as performance regression, but I hadn't connected it to something like burnout where you can experience that. Feeling incompetent, doubting one's abilities. I think imposter syndrome can flare up around this. Changes in your appetite, loss in motivation, feeling helpless, coping more with unhealthy behaviors. Maybe you're scrolling more, maybe you're drinking more. Blurred boundaries, isolating yourself, feeling really dissatisfied. I thought blurred boundaries was kind of an interesting one. I found that from the project that I did. And I was like, oh, maybe I put that because, as therapist, there can maybe be more blurred boundaries between like therapist and client, just as we get more fatigued and aren't able to uphold those lines as much. So that's what it looks like. It's a wide range, obviously, of symptoms, and I would be shocked if someone listening, one of you guys listening, doesn't feel any of these things at any given time, because it seems like our world is more and more structured to just like, we kind of feel some of this stuff all of the time, except maybe deep into a longer vacation where we're really able to rest and like exhale. And you probably recognize some of these things. I think when we start to get into more high level burnout, it's going to be we're experiencing more of these symptoms or with higher intensity or severity. When I'm talking about like that micro burnout at the end of the day or the week for me, I'm not fully depersonalized and I don't feel so much cynicism, but yeah, there's a bit of like apathy that can come in. Maybe I'm coping a little bit more with some unhealthy behaviors, feeling less motivated, and sometimes some of that performance regression comes in. A 4 out of 10 on the scale of burnout, but it's also not super built up to where it's impossible for me to kind of like bring down those levels. Usually after a weekend, I'm more recharged. I'm feeling more enthusiastic or excited or motivated for the week of work. And then, we start the cycle again. But I think that we don't have to just do it that way. We, meaning me, and maybe you guys. Because I was getting excited thinking about short-term recovery and long-term prevention strategies, because I would love to not feel even the micro-burnout at the end of a week. Because that hamster wheel gets really exhausting. It's like, okay, another week of work and I'm going to be dead tired at the end of it. And then I'm going to recharge over the weekend and then I'm going to do it again. I would like to maybe break that cycle, or at least elongate it a bit. So it's like at the end of a month, maybe I'm feeling like, okay, I've got to do some more concerted discharge. But for the most part, I'm in the flow of things. And I don't know, maybe that's like really aspirational, but I like to aspire, so we'll go with it. But what I thought is, okay, so all of these strategies will work whether you're like, I am checking all of those boxes and I am super burnt out. And they'll also work if you're just more in my kind of camp and you're wanting to know how to prevent this stuff a little bit better. So what to do in the short term to recover? Completing the stress cycle, which is something I should have mentioned earlier, because a lot of this stuff that I'm referencing, a lot of what I know about burnout comes from the amazing book Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. I don't know. They're sisters. And they have this great book about burnout, and it's especially written for women, especially women in America. And it's a great resource if you want to learn more, and it definitely informed me. I've definitely talked about it on this podcast before too, because I think it's very important. But they talk about completing the stress cycle. Rooted in our biology, it's connected to our fight or flight system. You see this in other animals. There's this one video of a gazelle that I love. I was shown in like a psychology class in college, which is basically when a gazelle out in the wild is being chased by a tiger or a lion. I don't know which ones chase gazelles, but it was one of them. And it flees, it runs, that fight or flight system gets activated. That is a stressing event. It is life or death. And so the fight or flight system turns on, the sympathetic nervous system, and presses the gas and says, get the hell out of there. So the gazelle tries to run, and if it seems like it cannot escape, the gazelle will play dead, freeze, because that is, less desirable to the predator to eat them if they seem like they're already dead. There's the biological hardwired system that goes fight, flight, freeze. It will choose based off of the threat. If we don't think we can fight it, if we think it's bigger than us, we will flee. If we don't think we can outrun it, we will freeze. So freeze is kind of the most terrified, most threatened state. And we can find ourselves as humans chronically in these states because we don't do the next step, which you will see in the video of the gazelle if you look it up. Once the threat is gone, the gazelle begins to twitch. It's got a lot of muscle movements. It gets up, it kind of bucks around, runs a bit, and gets out the excess energy that was stored up in response to that threat. So that's the part that we don't do, right? Because you're in a meeting at work and your boss gives you negative feedback, and to your body that feels threatening and life or death. But instead of running out of the room or going up, squaring up to fight your boss, you sit there. Sometimes you might be in a bit of a freeze state, and you get through the rest of the meeting. All that adrenaline just went whoop and then sat there in pools. And most likely you leave the meeting and you just go on with the rest of your day because you have emails to attend to, you have other things you need to do that feel more important. And maybe they are more important for the time being. But the fact is, we don't circle back to complete and release that stress. So there's your little 101 science lesson, which I'm sure lacks some things, but that's why people write books like Burnout, so that you can learn more about it. So, how we deal with this in the short term, why is this relevant? One, it's important to know what's going on so that you can feel it in your body and go, oh, I was super stressed earlier today and I didn't have any way to exercise that. I'm going to exercise that now. I'm going to let my body know that it is safe and it can relax. So, this can look like physical exercise or crying or laughing or deep breathing, yawning. These are things that signal to the body that we're safe. There are things that we don't really do if we're not safe. You're not going to laugh when you're getting chased by a lion. So engaging with the senses, grounding, exercise is one of those things that helps, expel extra energy. But you can also meditate or get into nature or journal. Play out the experience in your journal. Maybe if you're feeling extra brave, write out what you wish you could have done in that moment. Play it out in your mind. If you wish you could have gotten up and punched your boss in the face, play it out in your mind. Understanding we're not actually going to do that. That's not helpful. But allow your body through imagination to complete what it would have wanted to complete, what it kind of felt drawn to do. Maybe it wanted to get up and run out the room. Taking a bath, eating your favorite food. Those are kind of helpful recovery methods, but I would say doing some of that more comforting, soft stuff, save that for after you have exercised this stress out in a way, whether that's through crying, actual physical movement, imaginal, playing it out in your head. Do that first and then take care. Relax. Say no to things that you want to say no to. Take a bath. Meditate. Go into nature. Help soothe after, and that's kind of part of the recharge as well. Okay. So how about long-term prevention? Long-term prevention includes all of the same things as the short-term recovery. You want to do those on a regular basis. You want to complete the stress cycle on a regular basis. That is the best way to prevent burnout, because completing the stress cycle expels that stress from your body, thus not allowing it to build up or accumulate, which we know is what leads to burnout. So what else can you do? Something I really love that the book talks about is the role of the patriarchy in women's experience of burnout, and how we're taught or we're shown in society that we're supposed to obsess over our beauty or our body or what we eat. And Naomi Wolf has a quote that says, "A culture fixated on female thinness is not an obsession about female beauty, but an obsession about female obedience." Thinness can be a signal of obedience in a society or in a culture. It's so important, but it's like so upsetting. It's so upsetting, but it makes sense. Like as soon as I read this, I was like, oh yeah, because we spend so much energy and time. I spend so much time up here thinking about beauty and, what my body looks like or what I'm consuming. And if I'm measuring up to what I'm seeing out in the world as being the desirable standard to measure up to. And it just wastes so much energy. So being aware of that, working on your own relationship with those standards to see, can we release a little bit more and free up that energy that is going to these things that don't matter, but we have been taught to believe that they matter the most. I also think that, especially for women, suppressing anger can reduce our vitality and our energy that drives us forward and gives us purpose and gives us the energy to fight for the things that we're fighting for, to show up and to do the hard work that we're doing, to what we're contributing to society. I just think anger is a real driving force. It's really important. Like, think about in that fight, flight, freeze scenario, how often are you really moving into fight? How often are you viewing that as a valid response to stressors in your life? And again, it's not like I want you to go out and like pick fights, but that anger is super important, and anger is biologically hardwired into us because it carries vitality, because it is the conduit to show us what's important to us and to give us the energy to show up for it. So in your process of releasing stress, remembering anger, allowing yourself to express that in a safe way, even if that's just in your journal, viewing that as an important part of your own well-being and your own response and protection against burnout. So some other things. One that you maybe are surprised that I haven't said yet, which is rest. And the Nagoski sisters define rest as sleep, food, friends, and movement. So connection with friends, with family, with loved ones, nourishing yourself through food, not talking about like, I need to be like the healthiest version, blah, 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 and just eat these things. But nourishment, really learning what nourishment looks like and feels like for you. Getting sleep. We need sleep. We need a lot of sleep. And movement, whatever kind of movement that is. Runs are not always the best way to alleviate our stress. Yes, it can help complete the stress cycle, but runs also add stressors to the body. It needs to be balanced because it activates our body and it puts stress on us. And so we want to also equal that out with relaxing activities, gentle movement, just plain old rest. Yeah. Also, finding connection to your larger purpose. So this might be something spiritual or religious for you, or just be values driven, but asking yourself, what am I doing when I feel most powerfully that I'm doing what I am meant to be doing? That's kind of like a word salad question, but figuring out what makes you feel connected, what makes you feel purposeful, what makes you feel like you're doing what you're meant to be. In addition to regularly discharging stress, we also want to make an effort to reduce the things that create stress in our life. So maybe there's some things that are on your plate that you can take off your plate. Kind of going back to our fixation on like beauty and body image as a culture. That's something that we can work over time to take off the plate. We want to decrease our stressors as much as possible so that we don't have to be constantly discharging a ton of stress or kind of maxing out the system. And the last thing I want to say on this matter, at least for now, is that stress happens and it will build up over time. And sometimes we are going to need more prolonged periods of rest or of a reset, a career change, a lifestyle change, hands-on support. All of those things are okay and they're necessary. Unfortunately, this seems like burnout is one of the kind of evils of life today. And one of those things that we just have to learn to live alongside, to live with. I'm hoping that changes over time and there's culture shifts, there's a paradigm shift. But if you find yourself feeling burnt out and needing help or needing a break, there's no shame around that. That happens to everyone. That will happen to all of us, even if we are continually doing our best efforts to discharge our stress, complete that cycle, to do these long-term and short-term supports. It's still going to add up sometimes because we have a lot on our plate. A lot is being asked of us. There's also a lot going on in the world that's very hard to cope with on a regular basis. And so, yeah, just remembering that every now and then we're going to need those larger resets, maybe a good old nice long vacation if you can take it, or just support from others, outsourcing if possible, asking for help, or making a change. Maybe something isn't working for you anymore. It used to work for you and it's not anymore, and that's okay. It's okay to change and to not take on as much as we used to feel like we could take on. Sometimes I think that's a sign of health too. If we start going, hey, I actually don't think I can deal with as much stress as I used to, I think that's a good thing and we should listen to it. So that's what I have today. I'm so excited to be back with you guys. Please let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below. Find me on social media on Instagram or TikTok. I'm at the Evergreen RX. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your questions for future episodes this season. And I hope this helped you. I'm wishing you guys all the best, and I'll catch you next Wednesday.